What if I told you that the company behind the radio station you grew up listening to in the car with your parents nearly collapsed completely, wiped out by one single business decision made by people who never even worked there? And what if I told you that same company is sitting behind one of the biggest broadcast deals happening anywhere in the world right now, this summer, and almost nobody watching it has any idea? Stick around, because this story gets stranger the deeper you go. Before we get into it, if you like finding stories most people never hear about, hit subscribe right now, because I dig up one of these every single week. And I promise you, none of them are the same tired names you have already seen 100 times on this platform. Now, let me take you back. Not to last year, not to 10 years ago, all the way back to 1972 in a small city in Texas, where one man accidentally ended up owning a struggling radio station simply because he had co-signed a bank loan for someone else, and that someone else stopped paying. He knew nothing about radio, so he called up his friend, a local car dealer, and asked him what on earth they should do with it. For years, that one station was all they had. It made a little money. It was nothing special. But something was about to change the entire radio industry, and almost nobody in Washington realized what they were about to unleash. In 1996, the government passed a law that let one company own as many radio stations as it wanted, in as many cities as it wanted. Before that law, a single company could barely own more than a couple dozen stations nationwide. The two of them saw the opportunity before almost anyone else did. They started buying and buying and buying again. Within a few short years, they did not own dozens of stations. They owned hundreds. Then, they owned over 1,000. They became the single largest radio broadcaster the United States had ever seen, reaching more American ears every single day than any other audio company in history. You would think that is where the story ends. A happy ending. A media empire built from one tiny station in Texas. But that is exactly where things start to go wrong. In 2008, right before one of the worst financial crises in modern history, two massive private equity firms decided they wanted in. They took the entire company private in a deal worth nearly $24 billion, one of the largest leveraged buyouts in American corporate history. Here is the part almost nobody talks about. That kind of deal is not paid for with cash sitting in a vault somewhere. It is paid for with debt, loaded directly onto the company itself. For the next decade, that debt sat there like a weight around the company's neck. Interest payments alone were suffocating. Every single dollar the business made went toward keeping up with obligations that had nothing to do with running radio stations or building better technology. Meanwhile, the entire audio industry was changing underneath them. Streaming was rising. Podcasts were becoming a real business. And this company, sitting on top of the largest radio network on Earth, could barely invest in its own future because it was too busy servicing debt from a deal made by people who did not even work there anymore. In 2018, the pressure became too much. The company filed for a form of bankruptcy protection, wiping out billions of dollars in debt in one of the most closely watched restructurings in media history. Thousands of employees held their breath, wondering if the largest radio company in America was simply about to disappear. It did not disappear. It came back a year later with a new name, a lighter balance sheet, and a completely different strategy. Instead of just being a radio company, it aggressively pushed into podcasting, digital audio, and live events. And here is where the story gets interesting again, because right now, in 2026, this same company is involved in two of the biggest media partnerships you could imagine. One of the largest streaming platforms on the planet is now airing one of its flagship radio shows as a daily video podcast, introducing it to a new generation of viewers. And this summer, this same company is the exclusive English-language audio partner for the biggest sporting tournament on the planet, broadcasting every single match to over 100 of its stations and a streaming app used by tens of millions of people daily. And before I tell you what this company actually is, I want you to think about something for a second. Whatever your guess is right now, it is probably not what you think. The ticker is IHRT. The company is iHeartMedia Incorporated, listed on NASDAQ. Yes, the same company behind the station in your car, the app on your phone, and the podcast millions listen to every morning is a stock trading under $5 right now. In Q1 2026, revenue hit $884 million, up nearly 10%, with podcast revenue growing almost 27%. The company still carries real debt from that old buyout, and analysts are split between sell and buy. But the stock sits near $4.32 inside a 52-week range of under $2 to over $6. This is not risk-free. Do your own research first. If this kept you watching, subscribe, hit like, and tell me, had you ever thought about who actually owns the radio station you grew up on? This video is for educational and entertainment purposes only. Nothing here is financial advice. I am not a licensed financial advisor. This stock carries real risk. Always consult a financial professional before investing. Past performance does not guarantee future results.